I'm Rebecca Eunice, a semantic web developer at Cornell University Library, working on Linked Data for Libraries Labs, a project funded by the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. This video introduces instance data browsing in VitroLib. A subsequent video will cover manually adding and editing instance data. I'm starting with a VitroLib instance that has been configured and loaded with 29 sample records from the Cornell University Library catalog. Now that data has been loaded into VitroLib, we'll discuss some of the different ways it can be viewed. Specifically, we'll talk about the index page, menu pages, the individual profile pages, and search. Notice that I'm not logged in to VitroLib in this browser, so we'll be able to see the public view of the pages. Later, we'll view the data from the point of view of a logged-in user. I can navigate to the index page by using the link in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Here, I can see a list of all the classes that are populated in this instance, with counts of the number of individuals of each type. Clicking on any of these links will bring me to a list of entities of that type. And from there, you can click on another link for a particular organization to drill down into the information about that individual. Another browsing option is to click on one of the menu pages, for example, the Works page. The menu pages in this VitroLib installation have been pre-configured to list all the individuals of the given type. There are several other ways to configure menu pages, some of which are discussed in the Page Management and Menus video. The panel on the left shows a breakdown of the works by subclasses, or at the bottom, all works. Let's go to the text subclass. Here I can see all the works that are of type text. Notice that the items are paged alphabetically across the top, and I can navigate to works beginning with various letters or all. Let's drill down into the individual profile page of one of these works. I'll choose Huckleberry Finn. This is the heart of instance data display in VitroLib, where you can view all the data available for an individual entity. At the top of the page, I see the label of the individual and the classes it belongs to. To the right, you'll see a link icon. By clicking on this link, I can get the URI of the individual and can view the profile in RDF format. This gives us the full machine-readable RDF version of what's displayed on the HTML page in human-readable format. Going back to the page, now let's turn to the tabs that make up the bulk of the page. The tabs group related data for display purposes, and the tabs that appear on any given page depend on the type of individual displayed. Because I'm not logged in, I can only see the tabs and properties that are actually populated for this work. Let's look at the Instances tab. Here we see the name of the property, hasInstance, and the instance that is the object of this statement. This work, as you can see, has only one related instance. I'm now going to switch over to another browser where I am logged in so that we can get a better view of what's behind the data being displayed. Note that now that I'm logged in, I can see all the tabs and properties on the profile page, even those that are not populated. So for example, genre and form, time and place, awards are not populated for this individual. I can turn on a function called verbose property display to get more information about the ontology property displayed in each listing. Now I can see the actual name of the property, ontology prefix plus local name, which in this case is LD for L hasInstance. I can see that it's an object property, and I can see some of its display properties, such as the ordering in the group, viewing and editing privileges, and so on. Let's take a brief look at the way the ontology defines the hasInstance relationship, that is, the relationship between the work and the instance. As you can see in the diagram, the has instance property directly links the work to the instance. So the object of the statement is the instance itself. Note for later that has instance has an inverse property, instance of, which links the instance to the work in the other direction. Going back to the page, when I click on the instance, I am sent to the profile page of the instance, as I would expect. You can see from the top of the page that this is in fact an instance. Under the Work tab, we see a display of the property is instance of, which is the inverse of has instance. And when I click on the object displayed, I'm sent back to the work that we were just viewing. So far, we've been looking at default data presentation in VitroLib, but VitroLib also provides a number of options for display customizations. Here, I'll discuss one kind of customization known as a custom list view. Custom list views cannot be created via the application interface, but are based on configuration files and display templates in the application. So I'm not going to get into how to create these views. Here, we'll simply explore the effect of a custom list view on the display of the data, as an example of the types of customizations that can be developed to optimize data display in your VitroLib instance. I'm going to switch over to another VitroLib installation that uses only the default list views by way of contrast. This instance is otherwise identical to the one we've been looking at, including the same instance data, but I have changed the color of the header so that we can tell which instance we're looking at. From the verbose property display, we can see that we'll go over to the Contributors tab, and then from the verbose property display, we can see that the property being displayed is LD4L has contribution, which has a contribution entity as object. To see this concretely, let's look at a diagram of this fragment of the ontology. In the ontology, the contribution is an abstract entity that links a work to contributing agents, such as authors, illustrators, composers, etc. The ontology defines the contribution object so that other information about the contribution, such as date and place, can be asserted. If the agent were linked directly to the work, it would not be possible to express this information. As you can see, the has contribution property links a work to this contribution object, and this property has an inverse, contributed to. There's a has agent property that links the contribution to the agent, which could be a person or some other type of agent, and this property also has an inverse, is agent of. The work is linked to the agent only through the contribution entity. This differs from the relationship of the work to the instance, where there is a direct link with no intermediate entity. So let's go back to the work profile page. As I mentioned, this version of VitroLib shows the default view of the has contribution property. That is the object of the property, which is a contribution entity. When I click on one of the entries, I get the contribution, not the profile of the contributor, that is, the agent. But what would most interest users is the person or other agent who contributed to the work, rather than this abstract contribution object. To illustrate this, let's return to the first VitroLib instance, which has a custom view to show the agents rather than the contribution objects themselves. I'll go to the Contributors tab. In this version, the entries for the has contribution property follow the links from the work to the agent, hopping over the contribution object and thereby hiding the details of the ontology from users to show them the content they're most interested in. For example, when I click on the link to Mark Twain, I'm sent to the profile of the person Mark Twain, not to the abstract contribution entity as in the default view. This kind of custom list view can be built for any property in the system, and custom list views are just one of many types of customizations that can be built into a VitroLib installation to improve the display of your data. Finally, a quick look at search. Like most web applications, VitroLib includes search functionality. By entering a search term, such as Anna Karenina, into the search field, I'll get this list of results, which, as you can see, includes various types of entities, in this case works, instances, and items. I can drill down into any one of the search results to the individual profile page, for example, this item. This concludes our overview of instance data browsing in VitroLib.